Moomin,
I, Barbara Miller,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
as a member of the Board of Education
as a member of the Board of Education
of the Warrensville Heights City School District
of the Warrensville Heights City School District
of,
District
of Cuyahoga County, Ohio,
of Cuyahoga County, Ohio,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
and in accordance with the laws
and in accordance to the law
now in effect
now in effect
and hereinafter
and hereinafter
to be enacted
to be enacted
during my continuance
during my continuance
in said office
in said office
and until my successor
until my successor
is elected and qualified.
is elected and qualified.
Please say I do.
I do.
Congratulations.
I want to welcome our two board members back for a four-year term. We're looking to do great things. I want to thank the Honorable Bradley Sellers, Mayor of Warrensville Heights. Thank you, Mayor, for swearing those actual members in. Next on our board agenda, 1.5 is the election of board president. At this time each year, the board will have to elect a president and a vice president to act in their duties for the year of 2018. 1.5 is the election of a board president. Dr. Rock, would you please take over that?
Yes. So again, at this time of the year is when the board will organize, and that includes picking a vice president and the president of the board for the school year, for the board year, which runs on the calendar year, and then also other things in the board meeting that we do. Are there any nominations for board president?
Yes. I would nominate Ray Freeman as president.
I second.
Is there any more nominations? Dr.
Any
Rock?
further nominations?
Yeah.
That's it? Okay, so then there was a move to nominate Ray by Mrs. Moomin, and Mrs. Mitchell seconded, and then we take the vote.
Right.
Mrs. Gator?
So let me ask you, is there an opportunity for discussion, or do we just vote?
Oh, sure,
So
yeah,
I can make a few comments?
yes.
Okay, I'd like to make just a few comments. So, me personally, I felt as though we should go in a slightly different direction this year. I feel as though we have another member on our board who has a stronger skill set. However, I will also say this. I think that Member Freeman brings some special qualities in his role as president. I would like to see this year, Member Freeman, I'd like to see you become a visionary leader. I'd like to see some strategic planning, both short-term and long-term. And I'd like to see, as a leader, that you strive really hard to bring out the best in all of us. The individual that I see has those qualities, and I think that would make you that much stronger. In addition to the fact that you are everywhere in the district. You are kind of like, I guess, a golden boy for the community. So having said that, I always support or try to support what we do as a Board of Education, so I will say yes.
Okay. Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
And Mr. Freeman?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. I will be the board president for the 2018 school year. I did hear Board Member Gator, and I am going to take on those duties. I think as a board, we have to do it collectively, and I want to do it more. I know that as far as running meetings and being that board presence, but it's an actual collaborative association with all board members that we make those decisions, and I will take heed to what you said. I want to thank all of you guys. I want to thank this board for reaching out and trying to be more than just in Warrensville Heights City School Districts. I know we have members on this board that's doing other things on the actual state board, Ohio School Board Association, and I thank you for reaching out and helping children in the public education forum. So I want to thank you again. I want to represent you all. My phone is always open. You can always call me, all of you. If you have any problem with me, just let me know. I'm open, so, and I'm fair. But thank this board again. Next on the board agenda, 1.6, election of board vice president. Dr. Rock, could you take those duties?
Yes. Are there any nominations for vice president?
I'd like to nominate Tracy Mitchell.
Any further nominations?
Any nominations?
Okay, so Mrs. Gator nominated Ms. Mitchell to be vice president. Is there a second?
I second.
Any discussion? No? Okay.
I have
Miss-
something.
There's a comment.
Sure.
We are only as good as a team. And I'm going to say that because I do think, Member Mitchell does an excellent job. Does she qualify to lead us? Yes, she does. Does Ray qualify to lead us? Yes, he does. I'm saying this because this is a new year, a new beginning for all of us, and that we have to work as a team because we have so much on our plate, so many positive things on our plate. And I just want to see that our leadership and understanding our role in this district will make us great one day. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Newman.
Oh, I do have a comment.
Board Member Elton?
I do hope that the officers that are being elected tonight, please take advantage of the trainings. Any and all trainings that are out here for board members to know your roles, because as I have watched over the last many years, I think people sometimes get the roles a little confused at the table as well as what people see. A board president's responsibility is to create an agenda and facilitate a meeting. They don't run the district, they don't run the board, they have one vote just like everyone else. The role of a vice president is to step in when a president is not in. And I say that because I'm sure some of you have heard that when you're out in the community, the president has the final say. Whatever the president says, that's how the district runs. But that's not how it works on the school board. I don't know how it works anywhere else, but on the school board, you just hold a title. Everybody only has one vote. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Elba. Dr. Rock?
Mrs. Elba?
Yes.
Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes. Motion carries 5-0. Congratulations, Vice President Mitchell. Do you have any comments at all?
I just want to say thank you to the board for entrusting me in this position again. And to your point, Mrs. Elba, I do fully understand my role and responsibility as the board vice president. I just hope that we can continue to work in a very collaborative effort over this year, and that we can take this district to the places that it needs to go as one unified team. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Next on our board agenda is 1.7, is the setting the time and dates of the board meeting for this calendar year 2018. We've always normally had it the last 2 years, or 3 years, I guess, the second and fourth Thursday of the month, calendar month. Floor is open for suggestions on meeting times or dates from the board.
I'd like to see us do a Monday.
Same time, 7?
Same time.
Any other board member that has some ideas about actual dates?
If we do a Monday, we have to look at I believe it's the second and fourth, because we have holidays that fall on the first Monday. The first and third Monday, excuse me, I'm sorry.
I'm okay with the second and fourth Monday. I mean, even if, But first of all, I guess we need to decide, are we going to 2 meetings a month, or are we going to 1 meeting a month?
We're having to
Two?
suggest it. I mean,
Well,
you guys have decided.
Because that was a comment that was made last year, that we would see how this year went with the work session and the regular session to determine how our 18-year would go. So if we're having 2 meetings a month, then I'm flexible on the Mondays. I just prefer it to be a Monday.
So Member Elba, one quick question. When you say meeting, are you saying a regular meeting and an informational meeting, or a work session meeting that we tried to do this year and a regular meeting?
I think she meant one meeting, though.
Well, and I guess, you know how I felt about these work meetings. There was never work meetings. We never worked. So for me, I'm flexible. If we're gonna make it a work session, then I want to see this 5-member board work and not do what we did in 2017.
Correct.
And then have our regular meeting, just that, our regular meeting. If we're gonna go back to how it used to be, the informational and whatever, we still have to make that time to work in one of those sessions. So I'm okay with us doing the work in the regular, as long as we all agree that we are going to work in that meeting and not be distracted and have a whole lot of other stuff going on, and we never get to work.
I agree, and I thank you, because I wanted to make sure that that's exactly what you were saying. And I'm in agreement with you, full agreement.
So can I ask a question about Mondays? Because I'm good with Mondays, I'm good with Thursdays, my schedule's pretty flexible. However, some of our Mondays would fall on a holiday. So how would we adjust that? Because I looked at Mondays as well. And there's at least 1 or 2 Mondays that would impact us. So would we move it to a different day? That's something we would need to discuss.
I think we would either move it to the next Monday or move it to the Tuesday, depending on how our schedules are. I mean, we all kind of really look at our schedules and go from there, but if there's a Monday on a holiday, like Martin Luther King Day, Dr. King's Day is next Monday. So then we would have the meeting the following Monday, or we would have it the Tuesday, like we always do. To me, I think we would look at our schedules.
My concerns on Mondays, it's a bad day for me, but I can make it work. But I'm looking at, for the district and for the superintendent Jolly and for Treasurer Dr. Rock, I think this was something that could happen, but I'm looking at Superintendent Jolly and his staff and Mondays and coming back from a weekend, if that would work for them. And you can chime in on this, Treasurer Dr. Rock, as far as Mondays and your experience with Monday meetings, if you ever had them in your districts.
What's tough on a Monday is it's nice to have that day before, that build up to the board meeting. So it's nice to have one of those working days. When you come in off the weekends, there's a lot of unanticipated things that happen on a Monday morning. That's just from my standpoint.
But I would think that that would come into your planning. We talk about that as a board all the time. You know when our meetings are. You have a job to do, as well as Mr. Jolly has a job to do as far as planning. Plenty of school districts in the state of Ohio have Monday morning board meetings, and their superintendents plan accordingly.
Superintendent Jolly, what's your,
I can make it work, whatever day, it is fine.
I'd like to just chime in and piggyback off what Member Elba said as far as Mondays are concerned. And again, I'm good with Monday or Thursday, but Dr. Rock was saying, that they've got the weekend in advance of it. My thought is you cut it off on Friday, and Monday you're good to go. Unless it's an extreme emergency, that's the only time it should change. So, again, I'm good with either one. I know Maple does theirs on Mondays. We've got Pam Cruz here, who's been the president for years. Would you guys mind just entertaining her thoughts on how Mondays work for them?
Board President Pamela Poindexter Cruz, could you just stand up and give some input on this Monday meetings?
Right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mondays work for us collectively as a board, and that's what we stick to. And to your question about if a holiday falls on a Monday, we just do it the following. We know we're gonna have 2 meetings a month, and we just make it work.
Thank you, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Board President, if I could just make one more comment.
Go right ahead.
I don't have an issue with Monday or Thursday. The only thing that if we do move the meeting to Monday, we are going to have to do heavy communications with our community to shift the gears, because
Correct.
it's been a number of years that our meetings have sat on Thursdays. That would be my only concern, is making sure that we do the proper communications to let them know that the day of the week is changing.
Ms. Mumin, how do you feel about Mondays, ma'am?
Just like, Ms. Gator, I'm flexible. Monday's fine. If the majority say Monday, it's okay. It's just the fact that sometimes we have a lack of communication. Just make sure the community is aware that the meetings are
Yeah.
on Mondays
Yes.
and not Thursdays.
Yes. Well, board, I mean, it's up, I guess we can put out some dates and vote on them, but,
Well, I heard you say, though, that Monday is not a good day for you.
I
so
would make
wanna
it
be
work, though.
mindful
No, I'll make it work. I'm like Superintendent Joe. I'll make it work. I mean, I'm here for the kids, so if we can do what we need to do our business on a Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, or a Sunday, other than church, I'm gonna do it, so.
So will it be on the second and fourth Monday?
Yes.
Mr. Jolly, your thoughts? You said you're good
No, we
with-
can make it work any day. Any day we need to meet, we'll make it work.
You said the second and fourth, right?
Correct, Monday of each month. So we would,
So the fourth Monday in June will work good with us on the 25th. You like to have your June business meeting as close to June 30th as possible for our close of the books.
okay.
June 25th would be okay. And then you had does that Monday work then for the one date that you had a concern on in
We're
September?
looking at September. That Monday would be fine for that. If all board members are going to the National School Board Association Council Urban Boards of Education annual meeting in Las Vegas this year. That will start on a Thursday, which would be like the 26th, I believe, of September,
27th.
27th of September. But
Oh,
we would leave the 20,
Want to get
so
travel
that wouldn't
days for
impact us,
26.
though, would it?
no, the Monday wouldn't impact us at all.
So the Monday's okay, and then the next one in November, we have to check with the Capitol Conference. That's usually on a Monday and Tuesday.
So
It's the 11th and 12th.
We can just move it to the next Monday.
We can move it to the next Monday, which would be the
We
19th.
only have that one meeting for the November and December.
Okay. Does the 19th work okay with the vacation calendar or anything?
And Thanksgiving
School-
is that
school
week, right?
calendar?
Thanksgiving is the
The next week.
22nd.
22nd.
22nd
it's
is
that
the week of the
week.
19th.
Or am I looking at the wrong, yeah.
So what I'm hearing from the board is that we're gonna change our actual, board meeting to Mondays at 7 PM. The second and fourth week of, that Monday of each month.
Yes.
Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Yes, we need a move and a second.
I'm sorry. Can I have a motion, board, to have our dates for the 2018 board calendar year, Mondays, the second Monday of each month and the fourth Monday of each month? Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board change our meeting dates and set the times for our board meetings going forward for the 2018 school year to be held at 7 PM the second and fourth Mondays of each month, with the understanding that on those months where we have a Monday holiday, that those dates will change.
Do I have a second?
A second.
We have a motion by Vice President Mitchell. We have a second by Board Member Mumin. Is there any other discussion about these dates before? we
I
call
just
it?
need some clarity. So
Yeah.
are we saying that we're going to try work sessions again? Or are we saying we're gonna not do work sessions and do informationals?
Board, I would
Because
prefer
no
work
one
session,
said
but, yeah, that's, you're right, we didn't say it.
We are going to do the work
We
session.
gonna try work sessions again?
And we're going to work diligently. I know Mr. Jolly has been working with his team to ensure that they have their materials to him in time by set date, so that we don't have any voting on the work sessions unless it is
Well,
truly,
we're gonna have voting.
unless it's truly deemed as an
Right.
emergency.
Okay.
It should be very, our voting
Right.
on our work session should be very minimal if
Right,
it's an
right, right,
emergency.
right,
That's the
right.
whole point of us moving to a work session, so we as a board can work.
I want to ask something.
Yeah, we're gonna.
We're on a building project. I don't know what emergency's gonna come up on this
Exactly.
project.
Emergencies.
Yeah, I mean, it's a build project. We don't know what's gonna come up. This is our first time doing it. So I just wanted to bring that caveat. We will do our best not to bring anything like tonight, nothing to be voted on at all. But with this building project, I cannot say that we won't bring anything.
Okay, we understand
I
that.
just wanted to bring that to the forefront.
We understand that. There are always going to be emergencies, so.
Can, Ms. Mitchell, excuse me, can you add into your motion that it'll be a work session and a regular meeting?
Absolutely. Excuse me, I'd like to amend the motion to note that while our board meetings will move to the second and fourth Mondays of each month, 7 p.m., our first meeting of the month will be work session. The second meeting of the month, will be a regular work session. But I will also add into that motion that, as we've stated, if there are any times we absolutely must vote during a work session, we will render a vote during that work session.
Do you have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Mumin. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda, 1.8 is committee assignments. Before you, board, we do have some old committee assignments, and we do have one that we're trying to engage with our board goals. The floor is open for discussion on committees. Any questions or concerns with the old ones? Do we need to replace them? Do we need to take them off?
So the old ones, I'm sorry, do I have the floor?
Yes.
The old ones that you're referring to are budget and finance and policy?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so me personally, I don't have any questions about those. But student, families, and faculty in action,
Uh-huh.
yeah. Could you
Exactly what
explain
is
that?
Vice President Mitchell, can you explain?
That's just a placeholder name. It is a tentative, it's a proposal that we wanted to bring to the board to build in a new committee that would be a committee of the whole. It would be a superintendent's committee. And it would help us bring forth our goals for Goal 3 and 4, specifically looking at cultural and reputational enhancement and rebuilding our parental and community engagement. We discussed the potential of taking those two goals, working with the committee of the whole. Mr. Jolly would determine members of that committee that would be from each walk of life of all our key stakeholders, middle school students, high school students, parents, parent liaisons, and others that he would deem as important participants on that particular committee. And we could use our work sessions, as we tried to do for budget and finance and our policy committee, as some of those meetings, but we would also need to have other committee meetings outside of our regular work session so that we can get the work done.
Okay, so then it's not a board committee. It will be a superintendent's committee.
That's what I noted.
Then we don't need it on here. If it's a board committee, then that means one of the five of us would chair it, and it will go from there. If it's going to be where Mr. Jolly is going to pick his whomever to be on this committee and run it that way, then it needs to come off and just be one of his committees, and then the board needs to either get another committee or just stick with the ones that we already have.
I think we can stay with the ones we have. I mean, unless you guys wanted to add something else. We have the budget and finance with Treasurer Dr. Rock and the policy and committee,
Okay,
which,
but if we're sticking with our board, if we're gonna stick with the goals that we set, then at one time, the board did have a, community engagement committee.
correct.
Then if that's the route that as a board we wanna take, then you can still have them too, and they can run collectively, but
This one's gonna
as
be a
far as
little bit
board
different.
committee,
than the
then we
community.
need to be looking at community engagement if that's what we're gonna do for a board.
Yeah, this one's gonna be a little bit different.
So, but this one, I'm sorry, Member Mitchell, is more so, dealing with culture though, right?
Nope, it was a combination.
Communication.
It's trying to use one committee. If you're able to address and rebuild engagement with the community and our key stakeholders, we should be able to make some strides and make that paradigm shift to change the culture and the reputation in our community, just by having your stakeholders coming in and working together. Because we, as a larger collective, should be able to put the programs in place to bring people back to the district, into our programs, into our buildings, and work with us together to, just make changes that we need here. And to your point, Michelle, I think the reason we wanted it on here so we could have a discussion to determine if it needs to be a board committee or if it needs to be a superintendent's committee. The initial thought was to have it be a superintendent's committee, but we would do it as a committee of the whole so that we can all participate. Because we all bring value to the board and we all have great ideas to bring to the table. So we did not want to exclude any of the board members. Mr. Jolly, I didn't know if you were going to say.
Right, we did want all board members to participate.
And then it's not a board committee.
Correct.
It's a
We can
superintendent.
change that. The
It should be a
superintendent.
Superintendent committee.
Right.
That's what it really should be.
So let's just clarify. We're saying it's a superintendent's committee that the entire board is participating in, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And even more so, if it's a superintendent's committee that directly impacts one of our board goals, we could because we set the agenda, we set what's on the agenda, we could realistically leave it on the agenda as a committee. We could list it as a superintendent's committee so that we never lose sight of the fact that this is something that we want to do and that it directly impacts one of our goals.
But then I still think we still, as a board, need to have a community engagement committee because that is part of one of our goals that we set. Because we need to start somewhere as a board.
Can we split this up?
So, yeah, that's the question. So do we split it up? Well, no, the bigger question is, do we not try to have this committee?
Right.
Because it doesn't make sense for us to have a
Superintendent.
committee that the superintendent is quote-unquote responsible for, that we're all members of, and we're not able to work toward building any of our measurements and how we're going to meet those measurements for our goal.
So, community engagement, and then if this is gonna be a superintendent's committee, it still falls under the strategic plan, a portion of it.
Right.
In terms of climate and
Communication.
culture, right?
Mhm.
And community engagement.
Correct.
So I guess the question is, what do we wanna do? Do we wanna do just community engagement, or do we wanna stick with the two that we've got and kinda bring this back? We can assess a committee.
I think we need some type of community engagement, like Board Member Elba said. That is one of our board goals that we set.
But if you look at student, family, and faculty, and you look at what Mr. Jolly is doing, he involved in the community. It's community's already engaged. I think this is something that he needs to focus on. It's something that we can always be involved with. But the bottom line, he has more contact with families. He has the majority contact with the student. He would be the best person to
Directed.
direct this, whether you wanna call it community engagement, it doesn't even matter. It's because it's still gonna involve the student, the family, and the faculty. And I just feel that it's best that he does that. He been doing it, so why do we want to change it at this point?
Do we just want to do these two?
I don't think it's so much we're changing it, it's just that we spent a good portion of a Saturday coming up with, board goals and things that we needed to do that we were never doing. So we had decided then, as a board, that starting in 2018, when the only time committees can be assigned from a board is to go from there. We, not taking anything away from Mr. Jolly, he got a million committees already that he's out here, that he's always emailing us about, that he's constantly doing, that is for.
I don't think we have a mini.
Well, you know what I mean, but he has some that that he emails us about and he stays in touch. But as a board, we need to get back to our goals, because if we keep.
Well, we got to make a decision and move on, so.
But if we keep giving our job per se to Mr. Jolly and
I got
Dr.
you.
Rock, as a board, we're not doing what we're supposed to do.
So quick question, I totally hear what you're saying. If we step back away from recommending the new committee, and instead we participate in the committee, a bigger committee that Mr. Jolly facilitates and brings us on board, I don't necessarily think that we need to have our own separate community engagement committee. I think that we can work together as we had planned to do in the first 2 work sessions of the year to build out what our goals are, because there's other things that we can do as a board to engage our community. So perhaps that's the route we should take. Would you be agreeable to that?
I'm okay with it. I'm just saying, if it's going to be a superintendent's committee, it doesn't need
I
to be
hear
on
you.
this agenda. It just needs to be a superintendent's committee that is going to go that way. If it's gonna be a board committee, then one of these 5 board members needs to decide who's gonna be and move from there.
Understood.
So,
It sounds like we're going to remove it.
Yeah, we'll remove it.
and what I'm also hearing is that we will discuss how we're gonna achieve those board goals when we start having those discussions, and that might be an opportunity for us to come up with subcommittees or some type of activities for us to engage in to meet our goals, right?
As far as budget and finance, do we have a co-chair? Would anybody want to co-chair the budget and finance?
It's committee of the whole.
Are we doing committee hall?
That's what we did
Oh.
last year.
Policy committee, is that going to be a committee of the whole also?
Yes.
All right, no chair. All right,
I have a question really quick on the budget and finance committee.
mhm.
Dr. Rock, would you be able to establish for us the dates that you're gonna want those committees to meet? I know that you base it specifically on when you have, different things that you're bringing to the board.
Yes.
And I'd also like to ask board if how you feel about incorporating a component of that deals with budget. I'm sorry?
In the work session?
And yes, as
Correct.
far as the budget and finance,
Yeah.
when they're actually reviewing the budget for the,
That's something we can do in the work session, budget and finance?
okay, something we could do.
I'm fine with it. All right, next, liaisons, as far as the Ohio School Board Association, Ms. Elba, you will be the head of the Black Caucus Scholarship since you are actually elected on that. So you'll stay on to that and report to us. Okay. As far as Black Caucus program, I don't think we need that.
I don't know what they're doing with the program this year, but the
They haven't
scholarship,
decided yet. It won't decide until.
Yeah, I'd like to take
February.
that off board if we want to take that off.
Just take that off.
I think with the new charter that Michelle and them will vote on, and, is it this month?
Next month.
Next month, so, is everybody okay with, taking off the Black Caucus program? Legislative, Chair, OSBA, Ms. Gator, I believe, did you want to take on that task?
actually, I would like to take on that task. I'd like to be more involved, from a legislative end.
Board, are we okay? We're gonna have Ms. Gator take that.
I'm sorry.
She's gonna do legislative
Legislative for who?
for OSBA, for our district.
A liaison, report on actually, so what I would like to do is to be able to provide reports to the board on what's going on legislatively.
Okay, I do,
And add the other one to it then, too. Add the Northeast Ohio Regional Executive Committee.
are you gonna report to us about it and what's going on with it?
Of course.
And what is it for? I mean, remind me again.
But that's quarterly, right?
What, the Northeast?
You meet quarterly, I think is what I was told.
4 times a year?
We have our first meeting in February, and then we meet every other month. Well, it's twice a month, every 2 months.
Do we wanna put that on here for a committee, or?
Well, it's not a committee.
Liaison.
It's a
I mean,
liaison.
liaison.
So, Mrs. Elba, it's Northeast Ohio Regional.
Regional Executive Committee.
Got it.
So I would say put it on there as long as with the expectation that we get regular reports about what's going on.
Ms. Elba will report to us and let us know when it is and report what happened in those meetings. Is that all in that section right now? Do we have any other? I do need a motion for 1.8 committee assignments, budget and finance, policy committee, and be committees of the whole. Liaisons will be Black Caucus Scholarship, board member Elba. OSBA legislative will be board member Gator. And Northeast Ohio Regional Executive Committee, and that will be Ms. Elba. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the item 1.8 committee assignments as they were just defined, and that we will move forward with a vote.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Newman. Any discussion? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda, 1.9, the waiver of the reading of the minutes. We're looking at this actual meeting today. I do need a motion for 1.9 waiver of the reading of the minutes, organizational meetings. Do I have a motion?
This means that when the board has a regular meeting, you're not reading the minutes from the prior meeting through. Some
Right.
governments do that, but they have much shorter minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve item 1.9, waiver of the reading of the minutes according to Ohio Revised Code 3313.26.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Newman. Any discussion? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda is 1.10, Board Service Fund. The rationale is to approve the service fund for board members, Ohio Revised Code 3315.15 for expenses accrued with attending functions at normally $2 per student or $20,000, whichever is greater. It's in our board policy, Neola 6231, and Board of Education Policy 0147.
Mr. Freeman.
Go right ahead.
Before we go forward, I had conversations with ODE and the state and the auditors regarding our board service fund.
Uh-huh.
Because I explained to them that every year, most school districts go over. And it's because of increasing in professional development, increasing in airfares, increasing in all the normal things. So this is what I am.
Go ahead, Ms. Elba, what did you say about board service?
I'm provided that for everybody so we can look at it. I know we say that our service fund is $20,000. However, we are able to, and we are allowed to, as a board, to increase it, because if anybody has looked at any of the conferences that are on the table for this year, they have all increased, from the hotel to the airfare to everything. And just in 2 conferences alone, you would definitely go over. So I'm just providing that information for you. And for those people that are out in the audience, basically what it says is, the board service fund is established and controlled by the board. The state does not have a say in the management of those use of the funds. Ohio Revised Code 3315.15 sets a maximum of $20,000 to be set aside each year for the fund, but the fund balance may exceed $20,000. The board can appropriate up to $60,000 from the fund in any school year. See the last sentence of Ohio Revised Code 3315.15. I'm saying that for the record, so Dr. Mark, please make sure that that goes into the minutes. If you'd like a copy, I can give you that for that. So, just putting that out there.
Thank you so much for that information. I did talk to Ohio School Board Association Legal Counsel, Jennifer Harden. She did give me some information about this, and she shared that, like you said, every district gets the greater amount of what the actual service fund is. I mean, it's normally $2 actual student. Ours would be like $3,400, $3,500. So we take the greater amount. But as a board, and as we move forward with the new building, this district is taking on an actual high balance of a $17.2 million balance on the district's pocket. So as a acting board president, I would want us to be fiscal responsible as board members, and I would like to go to every board conference, but sometimes maybe we can't go to every board conference. There's many districts in the state of Ohio that adhere to this $20,000 balance, high limit, and they don't go over it. I don't know why for many years, and I've always heard this, oh, we should be, But I don't want Dr. Rock to dip into the general fund to be taking out funds that I know he's got to have almost close to $800,000 or $900,000 payment coming here in a couple of years once the pre-K to 5 building is built. So that's my concern, and this is something that I looked at, and it was talked about last year, and we didn't act upon it. So at that time, the floor is open. If you want to discuss this, I mean, I know how my.
I'm open,
sentiment-
I'm just providing information.
Oh, I got you, okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Freeman, we do have our first payment this spring on the
Oh,
on
I'm
the
sorry.
financing.
Well, there you go.
That is coming up.
We got to be definitely fiscal responsible.
Our first payment for the financing of the new district, the new
Our COPS
buildings.
funds.
Yeah, our first payment's
It's the
due this.
participation.
Yeah, for the financing.
No, it's like, what is it, 900? Or
Well, 900 for the year, so it's about 450, because you're gonna just make your
I got
first
you.
payment in the spring.
I got you.
But the way that the formula works, it is, and this is right out of Ohio Revised Code, any city, local, exempted village Board of Education, so we would be the city Board of Education, may by resolution set aside each year from the general fund a sum not to exceed $2 per child enrolled in the district, or $20,000, whichever is greater. So just like you said, if it was $2 per student, we have about 1,700 students, it'd be $3,400. You take the greater of 3,400 or 20,000. But the last sentence, no board shall appropriate or expend a sum greater than $60,000 in any one school year from such service fund. That's for a district if you had over 30,000 students. That's like, that sets the maximum. So the maximum is $60,000. So if we had, just for instance, if we had 40,000 students, 40,000 times $2 per student would be $80,000, and we'd say, oh, we want to put, $2 per student away. But then the Ohio Revised Code says, no, you can only put $60,000. That's what that line item's used for in that description.
Thank you, Dr. Rock, I appreciate it. Board, the floor is open for discussion about the board
Well,
service.
technically, we've gotta make the move and vote, then we can have discussion.
Okay. All right, this time I would need a motion for 1.10, Board Service Fund, approval for the 20,000 max, with each board member using 4,000 per board member in 2018. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board vote on item 1.1, board service fund.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by, I'm sorry, moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. The floor is open.
Oh, Gator.
Mr. Chair, may I speak?
Go right ahead.
Dr. Rock, I know you had been keeping a report of our quarterly expenditures for our
Yes.
travels. Do you have that report so that we can look at it?
Yes. Now, this report is on pure cash basis. In other words, cash going out from January 1st, 2017 till December 31st, 2017.
Thank you.
Some of the other reports you had timing differences on them that we were trying to capture, but this is cash going out. Also, what I would like to do is I would like to assemble a book that for every line item on here, it shows the support for it, so then you can have a picture on it, so every board member could see the support behind every one of these. Because some of these, I had to do some allocations, since we were out of business, we weren't in business today, I didn't have access to my staff's files.
I got you.
So this is the cash that went out, so, and I had to make an adjustment there. The total's just over $28,000, and then you can see in the different columns. Now, some of those columns may change a little bit depending on the allocations when I get further information. So I'd like to expand this project for you, and then I could have every single piece of data that's behind every one of these numbers and assemble a book, so then the whole board can have that, all of the details behind that. But this is gonna be very close.
Okay.
And if I may, one more.
Go right ahead.
I just want to make sure that we have it noted here that for Member Freeman, as a member of Q, his travel is not included in this
Yes,
because Q pays for all of his travel.
yes.
We have all checks except one. Correct.
So we all know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if I could just say this, board, for me personally, Yeah, we would like to, be able to attend some of these conferences, but at the end of the day, there's other conferences out there that we can go to that would keep us within the $4,000. To your point, I think
ESC?
that's being physically responsible. I would like to see us stay more in line with the 4,000, with the 20,000 that's allowed for the year. I just think that speaks to the fact that we are trying to make sure that our resources are being used wisely.
Ms. Mueller?
I think a lot of time we don't prioritize. What conference is very beneficial to us? Do we all need to attend the same conference? No, we do not. We need to pick and choose which conference. I didn't go to the state because I felt that a lot of the workshop that I have already attended, and I didn't want to go back to the same workshop. If they can show me something different, then I will go, if it's something that I'm gonna learn. But to be going to all these different workshops, and we all go, and we all try to attend different workshops, but I'm just saying, we need to prioritize. If Michelle goes to the state, then she shouldn't go to the Capitol, or vice versa. We all shouldn't go. And a lot of the other districts sitting at the table, they all don't be there. It'd be only 2 or 3 from their district. It doesn't be 5 and 6. And that's money that we don't need to spend. Tracy does excellent when she goes to the workshop. She brings it back, she shares it. I read it, and it's sometimes it's good material. Some stuff is stuff that I done already seen before. I have already heard before. But I'm saying, guys, we got to look at these different workshops that we are going to. We don't all need to go to all of the workshops. And we definitely don't need to go as a group.
Okay. Any more discussion before?
If you don't mind, Mr. Chair,
Go right
I
ahead.
just would like to say, and I think this is gonna probably come up in the next motion. I think as a board member individually, we should be able to look at the curriculum that is in each of the conferences, and it's online. Because I go online for the conferences to see what they're offering, and I make the decisions. So I don't think we should be limited as to which conferences we choose to attend, as long as we stay within our $4,000 allotment.
Because that's what we're proposing here, is $4,000.
Correct.
Per board member.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm proposing. Any other discussion before I call the roll? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Next on our board agenda is 1.11, board travel. This is open for discussion. Every time we go on a actual board conference, we should have approval from this board. I know last year we didn't do that, so this is something that I've seen other boards do. And you want to make sure, again, that we are fiscal responsible for the money and going to the conferences. Like Vice President Mitchell said, we can choose. All conferences, like Ms. Muehlman said, are not going to help us in our district and what we're fighting in our challenges. So we're going to have to be selective as a board member where we go, and is it going to actually help us on our professional development. The floor is open. 1.1, board travel getting approved from the board for.
Make the motion first.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Can I have a motion? Can I have a motion for 1.1, board travel?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board, Mr. Chair, I move that this board discuss and vote on item 1.11, board travel.
Second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Any discussion on 1.1, board travel?
So can you define non-standard conferences? What exactly does that mean to everybody? Is that like OSBA related conferences?
I think I'm reading non-standard conferences as we are CUBE members, we
Where you
are
at?
OSBA
Right.
members,
It's on that paper.
we are members of ESC, so I
Oh.
think anything outside of that,
So we're saying, can we be kind of specific then? Michelle,
we
or-
absolutely can.
Or should we just say, you know, we at least have a discussion prior to any conference? There's board money that's gonna be expended, so I'm almost thinking we should all be in the loop when, whether it's the group or one individual person. Say if you're traveling to OSBA and you know you're gonna be reimbursed for mileage, you still need to, you know, at least let someone know.
Perhaps the language could read what Dr. Rock handed out to us in this draft proposal. Attendance at local, county, state, and national workshops and conferences. Maybe that can replace the non-standard language.
That's in our current board
Right.
policy.
So perhaps that should be the language in this motion here.
The
So-
proposed language is the bold. And so the one sentence, a board member desiring to attend a training program must have the board take action to approve each training program in advance of their attendance. And I got that exact language from another client from Neola, from a district that I worked at. Their board members were there for 20, 25 years, and they put that in there because they went through the same analysis and challenges that you did with, trying to stay in budget. And what they would do is they would vote on the meetings before they would go on. Sometimes they would do the capital conference way early, and say, hey, we know we're all going to capital conference, let's approve it, and it would go on the agenda with the superintendent and treasurer putting it on there. And then the second paragraph is just encapsulating your $4,000 per board member. And these are just proposals, but this would be the policy that we would put this in, which is about 175.1.
Any discussion about 1.1?
I guess I'm looking for some clarity. What did you say, Ms. Gator, non-standard conference was?
Well,
I didn't understand that.
no, it says discussion and vote for travel to non-standard conferences. So I was asking for clarification
Oh.
from Ms. Mitchell and.
Did anybody say what it was? What is a non-standard
I think
conference?
that's when I recommended that we use the language.
Oh, okay, so we're taking this off, okay.
So what we would be putting on is where it says a board member desiring to attend training.
Where it says attendance at local, county, state, and national workshops. and
Said lines.
So are you saying that all board travel should be approved by this board before they make the trip?
We normally do, but yes.
Okay, and this is a draft proposal? Okay, then,
Yes, this is a proposal.
since this is a draft, then I would like to change some stuff on here. Where is it?
I'd like to review it. I'd like to. have the
Review it?
opportunity to review it more.
Right.
'Cause
But is this part of the
First I've
vote?
seen it.
I don't think so.
No, it's not part of the board. It's just a proposal, I guess, to show the board some language.
Exactly. I just wanted to give the board a vehicle. If you were going to make a change, you can memorialize it in your board policy book.
What I'm looking for and what we're discussing is the board travel.
Okay, so
Normally,
we're
we
not-
do it. We already make the actual vote, and we approve it like before we go to Capitol Conference, before you guys let us know. I mean, we all know if we're going to the CUBE conferences, the National School Board Association.
Okay, so we're not doing the draft proposal now.
No, he just
Okay.
gave that to you.
That's for our work session.
I guess, it could be.
Okay, all right.
Really, all we're voting on is stating that we will pre-approve.
Correct, before travel.
And does that include, just like, say, attending, say, like, you or Michelle have to go down to OSBA and mileage is gonna be included, or a
Yeah.
small hotel,
Yeah, it should be.
anything?
Yeah, it should be.
All right.
I mean, we got bills to pay, and we as a board gotta cut back on some of our spending to pay the bills that we have, so, I mean, we just gotta get approved. So, at this time, I do need a motion for 1.11 board travel.
We just need the vote.
Oh, I'm
We have
sorry.
it. We have it, President Freeman.
Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes,
Miss Mitchell,
Yes,
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0.
I was thinking, did Ms. Mitchell amend that, her motion adding this and changing it? That's what I was thinking of. I needed to make sure that that was amended before we all voted on
We
that.
will make the amendment.
Thank you.
Dr. Rock, approval of standard authorizations for superintendent and treasurer. Floor is yours, Dr. Rock.
Well, these are all the standing authorizations for the treasurer and
Excuse
superintendent.
me.
Oh, did you want a different motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We needed to make sure that that motion had the amended in there of what was taken out and what was put in.
You talking about the proposal? This is a,
No. We just took out the discussion and vote for travel to non-standard conferences. That was taken out, and the
I got you.
attendance at local, county, state, and national workshops was added. That needs to be a reflection of the minutes.
I recall the motion, and I call for a new motion, 1.11 board travel, stating the language that, and I don't have it in front of me.
I have it.
Go ahead, I'm sorry, I don't have it. Need a motion?
So well, I'll make the motion, but I never read the language. I just said 1.11 board travel. I never
Yeah, I never
included
heard it.
that
I
in
mean-
the
Well, that's what I
motion,
was
so.
asking.
Yeah, so I don't think we need to rescind and we can move forward.
As long as the minutes reflect it.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
minutes will reflect that.
Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
No, we don't
I
have
have to
to.
call a roll.
We had it already.
Oh, okay, all right, well, Section 2, approval of standard authorization for superintendent and treasurer. Dr. Rock, the floor is yours.
These are standing authorizations for the superintendent and treasurer that set up the school year for us, covering authority to do investments, authorization of payments and claims on school funds, procedure for opening and reporting bids, legal counsel, board compensation, bond counsel, the OSBA Legal Assistance Fund, advances on tax settlements, agents of the board, debt service resolution, fund-to-fund transfers, issuing purchase orders, donations to the district, employment of staff, accepting resignations, organization, and then that's it.
So let the record state that 2.15 is to be actually taken out. That should not be there, 2.15. That's our actual adjournment. I do need a motion for approval of standard authorization for superintendent and treasurer 2.1 through 2.14. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair,
Can we, wait, I need to remove some stuff and vote separately.
What are those, Board Member Elvin?
2.4,
Okay.
and that's it.
that's it?
That's it.
I'd like to recall that motion. I would need a motion for the approval of standard authorization for superintendent treasurer 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.5, 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, 2.9, 2.10, 2.11, 2.12, 2.13, and 2.14.
4.
She said 4. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like this board to approve, excuse me, item number 2, approval of standard authorizations for superintendent and treasurer. We're going to vote on 2.1 through 2.3, removing item 2.4. Then we will vote on 2.5 through 2.14, removing item 2.15.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Is there any discussion about the items?
I just have a comment. If we are allowing the superintendent and treasurer to accept resignations, we need to make sure that those resignations and hires do hit the next board agenda, to ensure that that has been happening. I think a few slipped through the cracks in 2017. So we can make sure, Dr. Rock and Mr. Jolly, that when you accept resignations and hires, that they do hit the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Board Member Elba. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba? Mrs. Gator?
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin? Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Freeman?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. This is the end of our organizational meeting.
Oh, no.
We got to 2.4.
Oh, I'm sorry. Michelle, I'm sorry. My bad. I do need a motion for the approval of standard authorization for superintendent and treasurer 2.4, attorneys at law, Pebble and Wagner. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve item 2, standardization,
Excuse me.
standard authorizations for superintendent and treasurer, item 2.4, attorneys at law, Pepple and Wagner.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Mewman. Floor is open for discussion.
I just have a comment for the record. I don't feel comfortable with Pablo and Wagner ever since when we were in the middle of a, legal matter, and I was called and said that 3 board members had made a decision to vote on something, and I was asked to vote, and from that point on, I don't feel comfortable, so no, I will not be supporting.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, yeah. Any other discussion? 2.1, 2.4? Doctor?
Sorry, I just want to state
Board Member
that
Gator?
I have never been asked to vote on something outside of this boardroom, so I'd like that on the record as well, and no other comment. Thank you.
Dr. Rock, could you put those comments on the record, please? And please call the roll. Dr. Rock?
Okay, Mrs. Elba,
No.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 4-1. I do need an adjournment for the organizational meeting. At this time, can I have a motion to adjourn the organizational meeting?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn our meeting, the organizational portion of our meeting for January 8th, 2018.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba, Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, we are adjourned out of the organizational meeting.
Excuse me, could we take a 5-minute recess? I'd like to.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Go right ahead. Huh?
Wait, are you good? You good?
Good to see you, Pam.
No, she's right. I mean, I could have stopped it. Oh, my God.
Oh, Miss Combs. Who is this?
Let's move this quick. We taking pee breaks.
Yeah.
Don't go far.
I'm not, I got
I wanna be out of here before 9 o'clock.
How was your holiday?
What's good? How was yours?
Okay.
Good. How's your mom doing? That's good. You attended Audrey's funeral?
I don't know. I know I had a.
If not,
Yeah, my kids were sick though. I told them, I said, I wish I was a doctor to help you.
What's happening?
Coke, man.
I'm good, man. How you doing? Thanks, man.
because I know I'm not gonna be able to make it.
Oh, man.
I didn't know.
Gotta change my
I might just.
Oh, you didn't know?
I can't wear Jordan coats and stuff for business meetings no more.
How you doing? Happy holidays to you. Yeah.
It was really nice to see your son.
How's everything?
That was nice.
that's my job.
That was the best one I've ever seen in my whole career.
Oh, no.
I never seen where people would bring, where board members would bring someone else. So that was a
Great.
special.
I just cut it out.
to have your son come.
I cut it out. It be coming in just like 3. I cut them out.
The mayor,
I get 4 or 5 here too. I cut them. See?
Oh,
and my oldest son.
Cut this shit out, man.
oh, that's good.
We was
Body doing well?
My son,
Hey, it's all positive, so
right, it is all positive, but I'm
they're
saying.
giving you 15 minutes of fame instead of just 7.
This kind of stuff, I need to.
Certain things as a parent, you know what I'm saying?
So you gonna go to Chelsea or something, or go to work?
Oh, on him then.
My dad did me like that. Hey, you come on. When I get up, you gotta get up. So, what happened to me? I get up. And you know what? His next opportunity to go to school, he's gonna cherish it. If he go work somewhere and do some real hard work.
I know you do.
Tempe. I went to a Tempe.
Nice.
I did. I got it cut a while ago. I did, yeah. I'm trying to cut off the, color that was on. I'm trying to embrace my.
Exactly. That's what happened. I was trying to.
It's not easy. I think it looks very.
Right. I mean, no salt in that. I was up there salting it.
Oh, here go the old fire though.
Hey, who's this?
Here's
You look good whatever color it is.
no.
Well, thank you.
God, that
Oh, hey, Crawford, you got a new phone number.
price tags on clothes.
Oh, okay, how are you?
Red belt.
It's nice.
Like you say, like. Ran back.
Yeah.
CPA.
Ready?
I don't know where I was working
Except
at.
I think it was
They had all
That's where she wants to
I
go.
was working
Well,
at
which one do you mention on?
She is,
they
Remember the numbers in front of it.
part on the conveyor belt. So some people just didn't. Some people like.
so I did not get it, you know what, I did not have your friend's
Then
phone
boss
number,
come tripping.
that came over for Christmas. The short guy, what was his name? Terrell. I didn't have his phone number to send him there, because he wanted to do stuff. So I told him that I would,
That's good. I was like,
I did send it to Freddie though.
That's my goal.
So,
just doing them.
yeah, just make sure did you tell him, or somebody tell him so he can come?
Pearl that was sitting back there, the gentleman that wanted to.
Yeah, she leaving. He is. She's ready to go. Matter of fact, Friday.
Sometimes that's the best.
Been there with him for quite a while.
If you were to follow.
Barbara?
He's probably
Just take it. Answer.
here.
I wonder if he knows, if he saw, that's where he went.
I see Creole.
Oh, you see him?
I see him downstairs in the cafe.
No, he just turned the heat up.
Wow.
It was cold.
Did you go home?
Yeah, it was better already.
He'd applied for the job.
I mean, it's burning up.
Uh-huh.
I'm waiting on Barbara. We ready to go.
so
Oh.
it's one.
Now she gonna decide to use the bathroom.
Did you? Where did you move to? Did you? Still on the west side? Still on the west side?
Hoping it was minute.
Ready, Barb?
All right, Crawford, I'm in the middle of a speaking question. Call you back when I get out. Okay.
Recess, brief.
Okay. A call to order the Warrensville Heights City School District Board of Education work session meeting, January the 8th, 2018. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba,
Here.
Mrs. Moomin,
Here.
Mrs. Gator,
Here.
Ms. Mitchell,
Here.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, all are in attendance. 3.2, the approval of the agenda, January 8th, 2008, organizational, work session meeting. Did everybody get a chance to look at the agenda for tonight? Is there any questions, concerns about the agenda? Corrections? I will need a motion for 3.2, approval of the agenda, January the 8th, 2018, work session.
Mr. Chair, I vote that this board approve item 3.2, tonight's agenda for the January 18th working session portion of the board meeting.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Mumin. Any discussion on the agenda? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries. Next is, on our board agenda is 3.3, public participation. Dr. Rock, do we have any?
No, sir.
Okay. Next on our board agenda, 3.4, is a presentation by Joe Sickriff of Neola. Joe, come on up, going over 36 volume 1.
Thank you very much. Neola has provided you, as Ray has indicated, volume 36, number 1 of policy updates. In this update, there were 12 revision policies, which should be included in your information, and 1 new policy. I'll just highlight a few of these. The College Credit Plus Program, Policy 2271, was a revision, and Neola recommends the revisions that are contained in the update because it reflects the current state of the law. Policy 2464, Gifted Education and Identification, is also a revision, and we recommend adoption because it reflects the recent changes in the Ohio Administrative Code. We have Policy 4120.05, Employment of Substitute Educational Aides. This policy reflects current changes to Ohio law, and we recommend that you consider adoption of this policy. It is a choice because in the language it says may hire a substitute aide to fill a position that is created by an employee absence. Policy 5136 and 5136.01, both are revisions, and these are included in the technology update as far as just trying to clean up the language in the technology policies of personal communication devices and electronic equipment. Policy 5200, attendance, is a revision. And again, Neola recommends adoption of the policy because it reflects the current state of Ohio law. Policy 5330, use of medication, is a revision. This is a result of House Bill 49. And we recommend the consideration for approving this adoption as well. Policy 5530, drug prevention, is a revision. And again, a result of House Bill 49, prohibition of students possessing or using the Patel nut at school, on school property, and at any school-sponsored event. 5530 has been updated to include those changes. And then amenities for participants at meetings and/or other occasions is a revision. And proceeds for recognition of employees is also a revision. What we recommend is a resolution passed by the board that identifies those areas as mentioned as far as using public funds in those areas. And if the treasurer superintendent can identify what those events are or what those items are, and then pass it in a resolution, probably will meet the expectation of the state auditor. This is where that direction is coming from.
So can I ask you a question? Are you saying we should adopt a resolution, put it on the agenda, and
Right.
pass it?
Yes. And if you would like sort of a model template of that resolution, we'll be happy to provide that to you.
That would
But then
help.
For which one?
you would construct it then with your items as Warrensville Heights use them.
Okay, and that would allow us to define those events that we would fund.
Right.
Okay.
And in that, Joe, they would allow the district to fund certain?
It would basically identify public purpose funds
Correct.
that goes towards amenities and recognition of staff.
Okay. And
And again, this answers the expectation of the state auditor.
I got you.
If they come to do an audit
I
and
got
they
you.
want to see that.
I got you.
So we just recently approved this doing the opposite, saying, hey, we're not gonna pay for anything. So now.
Well,
we're
if you've
coming-
made, okay, if you have made that decision that you're not, and that's the will of the district, then you don't have to change that policy.
So,
This would only be if you are going to pay for some things, you would list them in a resolution.
Pay for some things like what?
I'm sorry?
Pay for some things like what?
Employee recognition, stuff like that.
Meals, like.
Let's say if
for
you were giving
professional
out
development,
teacher-
It's listed in,
Right.
it's
If,
listed
yeah,
in.
if you were giving out teacher
I think we should
of the
pay
year
for 'em.
awards,
Correct.
that would be something that you would put on that resolution.
Well, I think we should pay for them. That's just me.
Pardon me?
I said, I think we should pay for them.
The board,
Can I ask a question? Are these administrative-driven policies or board-driven policies?
This is a board,
Board.
the resolution supports the board's actions of providing amenities and recognition for staff.
I'm just talking about all of the policies in general.
Oh, all the policies I've went
Yeah.
over today?
Mhm.
These are all board
Board-driven?
policies. They are not administrative guidelines.
Okay, well,
They're not administrative guidelines, meaning they are not the ones that are telling the staff how to do it.
Correct.
This is still a board policy.
correct.
This particular one is a resolution,
Gotcha.
okay? That is coming from the board. That you're basically saying that you are using, say, general fund dollars for public purpose.
6233 and 6680. So if I could just, real quick.
Yep.
Board, that's something that we need to have a discussion about when it comes to this policy. How do we want to do this?
Yeah, our knowledge of it that, we couldn't pay for any of it, Joe, with the policy
Yeah,
that
I'm-
35.
Yeah,
You know,
now we have an option.
Yeah.
If we do
Yeah,
this
yeah.
resolution,
Let me
The
say it
board
this
can
way. If you
designate.
decide at some point you want to do something, what we're saying is, in order to meet the
I got you.
expectations
In
of
case
state
you get
auditor,
audited for the
do it
treasurer.
as a resolution. Because every district does it differently. Some don't do it. Some do it, but what they would list is different from District B.
I got you.
He said we can, but we have to do a resolution to do
we
that.
already voted that we was not doing it. So, excuse me,
No,
Mr.
I
Freeman.
need to.
I guess this is just my comment.
It's clearly.
I know we voted that we were not gonna do this in
Correct.
2017. This is just me personally. I wasn't in favor of it then. I am in support of us doing it because we talk about all the time how we wanna show our staff how we appreciate them for the work that they're doing, but then we turn around and say, we're not gonna pay you for doing some of your hard work, a token of appreciation. That doesn't sit well with me. Me personally, I would like to see us go back to doing something. I mean, we're not going out here giving them a hotel room. We're just little gift card here or there. I mean, that's just me.
Well, I have a
but
question.
what's happened, I'm sorry if I interrupted.
Let me ask a question real
Go
quick.
ahead, Ms.
I think what you're saying to us, when we initially were told last year,
Correct.
the policy changed.
Yes.
We were told it had to be by step by step. We were just flat out not able to do. It sounds like this revision is allowing us now the latitude to write a resolution to
Yes.
say, yes, we will pay for these
And then you
items.
specifically state what it
And list them
is.
out, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and those are the only items that we will pay. Now, my question is, this states $25. Is that the cap, or can we set the cap?
I would say you would use the $25,
Okay.
$25, because this is answering what the state auditors are looking for.
Okay.
A little history. Last year, they took a hard stand, and there was, you can't do it, period. You had to look for outside resources,
We went through that.
donations.
Mhm.
There was so much pushback
Right.
on the reality of what school districts do. The auditor then came back and said, okay, how about resolution and you list,
Okay,
if you're gonna pick up these items.
I got you.
Excuse me, Ms. Mitchell, where are you seeing $25? Because,
If you look on,
She got the actual policy.
I have the policy.
oh, I need the policies. I can't.
They gave us a packet, I don't remember.
It
when,
was
but
like a
it's
month
been
ago. I gave it
They
to
gave
you.
us a big, thick packet,
Mr. Jolly emailed it out to everybody.
so I just brought mine with me. If you like, I can pass it down if you want to see it.
Yeah, can you please? Well, I do have it on my phone, but she got a hard copy right here. I can look.
And I'll just throw it out there again, does everybody have iPads? Because you could easily pull up your iPads too if you started bringing your iPads.
I printed my hard copy. I did like Ms. Mitchell. I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
Okay. Disposition of real property and personal property is a revision. That's policy 7300. And again, it reflects current state of Ohio law, and we recommend adoption. Policy 8600.04, bus driver certification, is also a revision. And this is the OVI look-back period of 10 years is what the significant change is. And again, this reflects current state of the law. This was a result of House Bill 388. And then the last policy is 9141, Business Advisory Council. The policy has been revised to reflect changes required by House Bill 49. And again, we recommend adoption because it does reflect the current state of Ohio law. And those were the policies in the update, and a new update will be coming out at the end of this month, which will be volume 36, number 2.
And it'll
We'll be
be
releasing
by the
that.
end of this month?
By the end of this month, 1st of February.
Okay. Do you have any questions for Joe on any of those policies?
I do. Oh, okay. So, this participants at meetings and or other occasions and the recognition. Is this also stating for administration?
Would be,
super-
yes, it would be for anyone that receives an amenity or receives a gift for recognition,
Okay,
any employee,
okay, so that
where,
would include
where,
our
where general
superintendent
fund
and treasurer
money
as well.
is used.
Okay, well, the
Yeah.
reason I'm asking is because
Sure.
I know as a board, sometimes we, like to give superintendent and treasurer. Do they fall under this
Yeah.
category too? Okay, that's what I needed to know. And then my second question is, I didn't see you a lot in 2017. Will you make it a point to be here more in 2018? Because you're supposed to, are you coming like quarterly, yearly?
Need a release of these?
I'd
No.
like to answer
You,
that.
you personally coming to our work sessions when we need to work on policy. Will
Yeah.
you come monthly, quarterly, twice a year, once a year? I mean, I know you had some things going on personally for last year, but if you are not able to make it, will there be a representative here on your behalf so we can still continue to do business?
I will come when you want.
Okay,
What I'll do is-
So
okay,
he will
Thank
come
you.
at a cost in some cases, but if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken,
Yeah, 4 hours.
when we have the updates,
Yes.
and this was something that we discussed after we did the first update, was that we would start having Joe come to these meetings so that he could help us with the updates. If you remember, the first one we did in the cafeteria.
Well, no, I remember, but I know
So
that.
yes, to answer your question, when we have updates, he can come. Now, if we have new policies, we can run them past Neola, or depending on how involved it is, I would suggest that we utilize our own legal team as well.
But if
So-
we already pay for Neola, I don't think we should use our legal team. That's extra money. You all just sat here and talked about, not you personally,
Okay.
fiscally responsible.
I said
We
it.
don't need to be
Throwing it out
using
there.
the legal
I
team.
said it.
Just throwing it out
Okay.
there.
No.
We've
All
got
right,
that
because
resource available.
part of your service that we pay you in the contract, how many times does it say that they are to come out? Because we talked about that at
Yeah,
our
but
last
on,
meeting.
on when we get the actual updates, I think in their contract, is it 24 hours or, I mean,
Contract, I can send you guys a copy of the contract.
Your
I have a copy of
contract
it, I'm sure.
states,
Okay,
yeah,
when I do an update,
all right,
you've already paid for it in your contract for
Correct.
2 hours. I can be with you for 2 hours.
there you go.
You don't pay anything because that's already built into
okay,
the contract.
okay.
If it goes outside of 2 hours, then it becomes an hourly rate
So is it 2 hours per update?
per update.
Okay.
2 hours per update.
So if I may, I want to kind of go back to where you were relative to the superintendents and treasurer. Are you stating the gifts that we as a board give them at the end of the year? Or are you stating something else?
No, I was just asking a question. I wanted to be clear on, since this is something that the board is doing, I just wanted to be clear where the parameters were.
Gotcha. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Oh,
what
no,
you were-
yeah, I just wanted to be clear.
Okay.
Let me
No, I
give
just
you,
want to be.
Hold on, please.
let me give you another example. Let's say 36 number 2 comes out, and you want me to come out and speak to the board on the update. Let's say I'm only here for an hour. You still have an hour of my time. So if for some reason the policy committee wants to talk to me, they can have me for an hour. You're still not paying because it's
I
2
got you,
hours.
I got you. Thank you,
If
Joe.
that helps.
No.
It does, thank you.
All right.
Is there any other questions that you have?
Yeah, I've got a couple. So, can we go back to the one, it was 5136 that deals with, personal communication devices?
Okay,
Electronic equipment.
51.
Is that the one,
No.
personal communication?
You're right, personal communication devices.
Yeah,
Yep.
so it lists all these different options, but I'm not seeing which option the board is actually selecting. So I'd just kind of like to be real clear on which way we as a board have decided to go, or what your team is recommending, Mr.
Okay, I had a board.
Yep. I think one of the things is you have to have your current policy next to the corrections. And then you might have selected A, so you'd select A again, and then mark off the additions, like the very first. You have to pick one of the options. You may want to keep it what it currently is.
You may
If
wanna
you picked
change
A, yeah, or you might want to change it,
Right.
yeah.
If the board would like us to go through each policy, not tonight, but if we have another meeting, a special meeting or something, we can go through each one.
Well, we're doing a first reading.
Okay.
This would be our first reading, and then maybe for the second reading, if the board has specific questions, I would like to encourage everybody to really take a look at it. And let's be prepared to ask whatever questions that we have. So for me, for that particular policy, that was the only thing I wanted to clarify, was which one you're selecting, if you're changing it. And then,
I can send out, if any changes was made, because we have to log in on a sheet that we have to send to Neola. I do not have the sheet with me.
that's fine.
We're going through the transfer from, Sue doing it to my office doing, the updates. So
Okay.
myself and Maddie are doing it, so we will send those out, we'll send those out.
I guess.
Yeah, thank you.
So are we talking about doing a reading and then coming back and making changes? Is that what I heard?
We're not changing it.
Oh.
You heard getting clarification. I didn't say changes. I wanted to know, because in looking at it, I can't really tell, and I apologize, Mr. Jolly, for not touching base with you in advance with that. I just want to know which one is the district selecting, because they've made changes.
So, can I ask a question then? Is it possible that we can wait before we do a reading so we can have them side by side and we can all be a little more prepared and exactly know what these changes were?
So, I mean, I'm okay with that, but I will say this to the board.
But a work
This is-
session discussion?
Work session, regular meeting, I mean, I just think that before we
Okay.
go out here and start making readings
I got
and
you.
votes,
It'll be
we
in
need
February.
to be,
That's fine.
Well, I personally thought that that's what we were doing today, with having Joe coming, that we were doing a first reading, and that everybody would have had the opportunity to take a look at the changes that are being made.
I didn't know he was
So again, this was on the agenda 3 meetings ago, and Mr. Jolly just sent out the policies again last week, so that in case you misplaced it or what had you, if you had questions, that would have been the time to ask it. So, I guess.
We
the
need to get
question
this
is-
reading through. We got to decide as a board how we want to do it. I mean, I'm fine. I read them 4 times, but I mean, if you guys have questions, I understand.
Oh, we got it, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, for what I would like to ask, does anyone have any questions for Joe? Because one of the things that, we ran into at the last meeting, Joe wasn't here, there were a ton of questions, we did a lot of policies then, though. So this would be a good time to ask him whatever questions that you have pertaining to the policies. If not, then, again, it's a first reading and a second reading, and then you adopt it. So I don't see why this couldn't be considered a first reading. You review it, and we discuss it again at the next work session, and either adopt or make changes as need be.
It's up to your pleasure, board. I mean, it's a first reading, We are a little bit behind on this, and we should have caught up, and I understand what happened, but we have Joe here. It's a new year, so what do you guys' pleasure? I mean, you could pick through every single one of these if you wanted to.
There's only 12 of them.
You could pick through all 12 if you wanted to. It's up to you guys, however you want to do it.
I personally had a chance to review,
I did too.
and I did not have
Me
any
neither.
questions.
So, and then for me, the only one that I saw where there was the option was the one that I mentioned to Mr. Jolly. So for me, that would be the only question. That could be clarified when we do the second reading.
Okay, I'll make sure that's done.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, because I read it and I didn't have any questions.
So this one will act as a first reading.
Anything difficult to understand?
Okay.
I'll send it out.
Thank you.
Would you like for me to send that resolution template?
Yes,
Yes,
out?
please.
I'll send it.
Yes, sir.
That's fine.
And we'll be talking this week.
All right. Very good.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate you.
One more quick question.
I got a question, so-
Administrative-
Oh,
I'm sorry, may I have the floor?
Go ahead.
Administrative guidelines. I just, I see where it's mentioned in here. So are we good with
Mr. Jolly and I
administrative
talked
guidelines?
before the meeting. We're all squared away.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Yep.
just a process of just putting them on the Neola,
Website?
VPN.
The VPN.
So it's just a transfer.
I explained to him there's a project file on Sue's computer
Okay.
when Sue's doing it. It just needs to be transferred back in to the VPN in that file, and then a quick email
update.
to production that it's there. They'll open it up and they'll start right on it.
So once that's done, how long will it take for the administrative guidelines to be?
We've been saying about 4 weeks.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Board Member Elba?
I just have a question.
Go
So,
ahead.
are we into the 1 hour or 2 hours? Because I know you've been here for a while. One? Okay.
Two.
I need to, for me personally, I just need to keep track so I know when you're coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you have an hour left.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Have a nice
Waiting,
night.
and
Happy New Year.
to you.
Next on the board agenda, Mr. Jolly, part of our strategic plan, we had, huh?
That was Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. For Treasurer's Report and Financial Recommendations, Dr. Rock?
Yes, this is one of the most important items financially for the district in an organizational meeting or in your first meeting before January 15th
Thank you.
of the school year. This is the tax budget, and what the tax budget does is it establishes the budget for next school year. This is the first step. If everybody has a handout, if you go to the third page in, it looks like this. This shows all of our levies. So in other words, we're telling the county auditor, yes, we want to collect all of these levies. We want to collect the maximum amounts that could be collectible, and that we are going to use the funds for our budget. The next section is the statement of fund activities. This establishes all of our funds. We have almost 40 funds that we report on. So this covers all of our funds, our general fund, our PI fund, and what this does, again, this is an estimate, because this is an estimate for next year. We don't know what the beginning of the year is going to be for next year, but what this does is this establishes the beginning estimates. And then, step 2 is in September, when you approve the permanent appropriations, that locks in the budget. So this is how the budget starts off as an estimate. So the statement of fund activities goes on for a few pages. After that, there's a unvoted general obligation debt. We don't have any, so that's why that one's empty. And then the next one's important to us. This is our bond, and this is the amount of money that we need to pay off our existing old bond that we have. And the certificates of participation wouldn't be reported here because they are reported in the general fund on our 5-year forecast. And then the last one is tax anticipation notes, and we have none. So this is what gets filed with the county auditor every year, and again, it's due within 15 business days. Take care, Joe.
Okay, I have a couple questions, Dr. Rob.
Let me make the motion first.
No, it's questions
Oh, I'm sorry,
about
go ahead.
levies. No, I just have questions about these levies. The one from 1976, is there a plan to pay that off and not renew that? I mean, we've got 9 levies and a possible 10th levy to come. Is there a plan to pay off the 1976 to 1980 and still be able to operate?
Well, you wouldn't pay off a levy. A levy is what brings in revenue. A levy's not a payment. A levy is what, as a taxing jurisdiction, as a government, we're able to levy taxes, and then that becomes a revenue stream for us. 1976 is actually a combination of all the levies that were in existence before 1976. 1976 is when House Bill 920 came out, so that's why they grouped those all up. So that's why you could see it's large, it's 29 mills. That is probably, well, I don't have the detail on it because it's been combined ever since. That could have been 15 levies right there.
That was a good number because you walked us through that before, and you showed us the detail that went into that levy.
Yes. So all of these are continuing levies. Can you cancel out a continuing levy? Yes, you could. But then if you canceled out one, when you go to need a levy, then the taxpayers are going to say, well, geez, why did you cancel that one? And now you're going to go for a new levy. And new operating levies, right now, they're only passing 2 to 3 out of every 10 are passing. That's my dissertation.
Wow.
You know, so going for new levies is a big challenge, probably the largest challenge for a school district, going for new levies. Now, Mrs. Elba is right, there will be a new levy coming on here for bond.
Correct.
And we are on the cusp of a great plan to where we may have the perfect timing to where the old bond will be paid for and the new bond will come on, and it may be an ultimate savings for the taxpayers, or it may just be 1 year of overlap. We're hitting that timeline now, and we'll know more about that once phase 2 starts rolling. So
The
facilities
construction.
plans.
Gotcha, okay.
Yes. So on this, you want to watch all your levies. Now, the other thing is and you were mentioning this from the 5-year forecast, we look at these because House Bill 920, what that said is in 1976, they said all your levies got to be fixed. They can only bring in the original dollar amount or the original levy millage. They can't bring in any more, okay? Well, in 1976, we were in inflation and growth. So that's why they brought House Bill 920 in. But now recently, it's the reverse. Everything's been deflated so far that now, when values are starting to deflate, they actually raise your millage to at least, number one, bring in the original dollar amount up to the original voted amount. Now, if they're raising your millage and bringing it back up, your effective millage, up to the original dollar amount, and you hit that ceiling and it doesn't bring in the original dollar amount, you have a loss. That's what we have to watch for. So I hope that, I'm sure you got more explanation than what you called for on it.
That's all right, no problem. Any other questions? At this time, I would need a motion for Treasurer's Report and Financial Recommendations 4.1, Tax Budget for the year of 2017, 2018, and 4.2, Cash Reconciliation. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve item number 4, Treasurer's Report and Financial Recommendations, items 4.1 and 4.2.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Member Gator. Any questions at all, Board? Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries. Next on our board agenda is Board Policy Review, which we just went over with Joe. That would be the first reading. Is there any questions? We just went over. Number 6, 2020 Strategic Plan, Superintendent Jolly.
I'll be real brief. I just wanted to just give an update on two items. First is the facilities plan, and both I was doing academics and facilities, but what we have accomplished so far in the facilities plan, we've developed a master plan that included phase 1, the new pre-K to 5, and phase 2, the new 6 to 12 high school. We received approval from the OFCC for $8.3 million to co-fund phase 1 of the project. We've secured the $16.8 million to fund the building of phase 1. We've partnered with the OFCC to select an architect, and we selected the owner's representative, which is the PMC group. So those are the things we've accomplished so far during our plan.
It's ironic that all of those things fit on one page, and it's a lot of man-hours and
Right.
dedication for us to get that far,
It's a whole
even
lot.
with the community too.
Mr. Jolly, could you go back, you said it was GPD is the architect, and then PMC is the owner's rep.
That's the owner's rep, PMC group. We still have to bring their contracts to the board. Some of these contracts we have to negotiate through the OFCC, and then we have Peppers and Wagner also reviewing them. Upcoming timeline, so I wanted the board to be aware of the upcoming timeline. There's a lot of moving targets as we move forward. The construction manager at risk, this is the person who's gonna be responsible for building the building. We have our interviews for the construction manager, the facilities committee, along with the OFCC. That'll be on January 22nd, which will be our next board meeting, I believe, the same day as our next board meeting. Educational visioning meeting, that is where they select teachers from Eastwood, Westwood, not Eastwood, but Westwood and John Dewey will be working with the architect to just talk about spaces, how they want the building to look. It'll be a event where it'll be talking about this, what do people want to see in the building. So it'll be 30 people there. At that meeting, we would like board participation in that meeting. That meeting will be at the library from 9 to 3.
And that's on the 17th?
That's on the 17th, and then we're having a second one on the 18th. This is an evening one here at the high school. It would be abbreviated, but it would be for community members and people who cannot attend the one on the 17th. Teacher informational meeting. This will be a meeting for all the teachers at John Dewey and Westwood, just to give them an overview of the project, what's going to happen, timelines, and so forth. And then the community parent meeting will be held the same day. New school visits. Our architect, GPD, is working on some visits to some new schools. I will be forwarding information about that soon. but they are coming up with a couple of new schools that they recently built so that we could take a focus group there. The demolition of Randallwood, once we hire the
CMR.
CMR, that process of getting Randallwood done will start fast. I put June 1st. I think it might happen before then, but that's I'll give it a longer date than it might occur. Design meetings with GDP. So after in February, there'll be various different design meetings. We have not developed that schedule yet, but that schedule will be forthcoming. Well, they'll be meeting with different focus groups to design the building. The design completed, so we'll have a full sketch of how the building should look before December 31st, 2018. I believe the anticipated date is November for them to have the design done. The start of the construction of the building, April of 2019. It's about a 14 to 16-month window to get the building up, with the building being complete July 2020, with the grand opening starting school of August 2020. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Superintendent Jones?
Yes.
So first, this question is for the board. I heard you say that you'd like to have someone there on the 17th.
Yes.
Is there, Barbara, someone that can come on the 17th? I threw your name out there because I know you're not working.
I know, but you know what? I ain't planning on going there.
Okay, all right. I mean, if I need to tell you.
Thank you, Ms. Gator.
Yes. And then the other thing I wanted to ask is you know, to me, looking at the timeline, that's exciting. So I'd kind of like to know how the board feels about putting, you know, some type of timeline on our website, you know, establishing a facilities page, you know, with the understanding that these are targets that might move, but this is sometime in December, this is what we're going to be doing. You know,
Right.
Randallwood is going to be demolished within the next however many days, so.
I like that. I really like that. That's something I work with our web team to try to get done. That's a great idea.
Just like I'm excited, I want the community to be excited.
Right, yeah.
Any other questions for Mr. Jelly on facilities?
Well, my question for facilities wasn't that. It was something else, when that's why I emailed you.
Oh, okay.
Me or him?
I emailed him. I had a
Okay.
question for facilities. It wasn't relating to this.
Okay.
You emailed me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I didn't see it, I'm
All right,
sorry.
and I do want to
You want
state,
to share what the question was?
Yeah,
Well, I was gonna wait till we were done with this. I didn't wanna do two different.
Oh.
It was a separate question that I had emailed Mr. Freeman, and he emailed me back and said we were gonna discuss it at the meeting today. I didn't know it was this.
okay.
I wanted to discuss different facilities, but go ahead and finish this.
yeah, because I don't.
Also, we are meeting with the OFCC on the 19th to discuss phase 2. So I just want to let the board know,
January 19th?
January 19th, we have a meeting with the OFCC to discuss phase 2 of the project. So I will have information at our meeting on the 21st, 22nd, on where we stand on phase 2. Our next is about academics. I just wanted to get aboard a update on the testing schedule because we are in testing season. Again, and this is an important testing season for us because we have to perform at a very high level. But just to show you the sheer number of tests students have to take so that people are aware, it's a lot of tests that they have to take. So we start off with the OELPA test, which is for students where English is not their first language, but it's their second language. It's an English proficiency test. We have quite a few students that come from out of the country here, so those students have to take their test, and that's the window, February 5th to March 30th for those tests. The alternative assessment for students with significant cognitive disabilities, these are for students who are most like medical fragile classroom, autism, and this is where teachers create portfolios that demonstrate students' knowledge that they are proficient. The state caps this at 1%, so a school district only can have 1% of their students who are alternative assessed. One of the issues that it kind of hurts are urban districts that have higher percentages of special needs students, but I believe we are about 1.13 percent of our students, which will take a small hit on it, that are attorney assessed. Our NWA MAP reading test for grade 3, this is another test that our third graders can take that will enable them to meet the third grade guarantee. Currently, we have 72 out of 101 students who have already met the requirements. Our writing diagnostic, the state mandated for grades 1 through 3, was March 5th through 9th. The Ohio graduation test, this is a test for any student who were supposed to graduate last year. So students currently in the 12th grade do not take the Ohio graduation test, but these are or grade 13 students or any student who was in last year's cohort will have to take the test. And when we gave the test in October, it was mainly students who hadn't passed who came back to take the test. The ACT, the district gives the ACT to all grade 11 students. So every student in 11th grade student will take the ACT on March 20th here at the high school. And then we get into the OST testing, our important testing that we are going full go to prepare our students for them starting tomorrow with tutors. We have people in central office is going to teach at Eastwood. We have people teaching here at the high school. It's all in. Everybody is teaching and helping our students. It starts with the test, the English test, grades 3 to 8, April 9th through 13th, and this is when we come back from spring break. End of the course, English 1 and 2, and next year our students will not have to take English 1. The state has just passed a new law that says English 1 won't be tested next year, but this year they have to take it. So English 1, then we have the math test, which will be the next week, grades 3 to 8, and then end of course math exams, which is algebra 1 and geometry. And then we have the Ohio State test in science, grades 5 and 8, April 23rd to 27th. Social studies the same week at the high school. Then we go back and give a map test again because this is how teachers, some teachers receive their SLO or student growth measures. Then we go back and give iReady diagnostic. This helps drive instruction and teachers, provides more data to help with interventions and so forth. Then we give our AP test. So we do have 4 AP classes at the high school. May 15th and 18th, we provide those tests. Then we have semester exams at the high school, which we just came off the first semester, and then we have the second semester exams to close the school year, which closes on the 24th. Then our summer test, which starts with the Ohio graduation test. These again for those cohort 2017 who didn't pass the test. And then we retake the third grade test July 9th to 13th. So historically what we've done is had those students who didn't pass the third grade test come to a boot camp over the summer, prepare them for the test, and then they take the test. And then end of the course exams again, we give a retake in the summer. So I just wanted you to get an understanding of the sheer amount of tests that students have to take. It's very intensive. When we all went to school, we didn't have to take this many tests at all, but this is what they're mandating, and we have to prepare our students to pass them. This is a very important year. I mean, with the Academic Distress Commission looking at us, we have to perform. We are very confident. We have some internal testing that we did that looked favorable, but again, it wasn't the test. It was a model of the test, but we did feel good about it. But we also see areas that we have to shore up, and that's why we are dispersing our central office to go support our teachers. So they will be there 5 days a week teaching, and I believe that them teaching and being a resource to the classrooms is the best use of their time and their ability. And I would say a lot of our central office and our academic department were great teachers, and they're going to go back and teach and help our teachers and help our students be successful. So that concludes my report. I'm open to any questions.
Any questions, sir?
I do. I have one question. Do you high school, these tests on the website so the parents know?
Yeah, they are on our website, on our assessment page. If you go through the website and you go to resources, you should see assessment, and then it's a form that comes up, has all the tests, when they're given everything on there. So it's on our website.
So it's on our website. With as important as this is, something to consider is robocalls, kind of telling people, hey, go to our website for additional information. Some really important tests are coming up. I guess my point is, we want to heavily communicate to the parents, to the students, that these things are coming up. So whatever methods that you and your staff would need, I would say it's all, like you said, all hands on deck. And I do just have one question. Again, you know, with the threat hanging over our heads with the Academic Distress Commission, I'd kind of like to know, what data are you guys using? Or what are you guys using to kind of let you know that we are on the right track?
So what we've done is the Illuminate, which the board did purchase, gives us the ability to create assessments that mirror the OST. So basically, what we have is a scope and sequence that is aligned to the Ohio, to the test. So it takes all, what the state does is provide a blueprint of all the standards that will be tested. So our curriculum department has backwards design to the test. So basically, what our teachers have is each week they have certain standards that they have to cover. And then what we've done is create assessments that mirror what they're supposed to taught. So what the end of the first quarter, or when the end of the first semester, was a synopsis of the whole first semester. So our students were tested on all the standards that they should have were taught the first semester. And what we've done is set it at an 80% mastery instead of where the state is. So it's actually higher than what the state mastery is. And it's online, so it mirrors what the students have to do. As many of you know, the state test now is not on paper. So it's a knowledge test, but it's also a computer test, a computer skills test. So one of the drives that we've been doing is important that our teachers use technology to assess our students, so that each time they take an assessment, it's online. So it is not, because a lot of times what we found in 2015-16 is that our students might have knew the content, but they didn't know how to manipulate the computer. So, and when I say manipulate the computer, people know how to use iPads, but the test, you cannot use an iPad. You have to use a mouse. So if you don't know how to use a mouse, then you can't be successful. And I try not to talk about families and cultures, but a lot of times, a lot of people don't have computers with mouses. They have touch screens. So many assume that people have computers with mouses, but we found that wasn't the case. So one of the things we did was hire a technology teacher in lieu of, in a position, so that could be a lesson taught in kindergarten moving up. So that's not a barrier to any testing. So we use Illuminate as the major part, and then also NWA is a measure that shows us where we are in reading and also in mathematics.
Okay.
Any other questions for Superintendent Jolly? All right, next on our board is our board goals. October 21st of last year, we did sit down with Steve Farnsworth with ESC, and we put together some board goals. I'm not going to go in detail with it, but I want to thank Vice President Mitchell for putting the grid together. If you can hand these to them, Mr. Jolly, to what we're going to go over some of the actual components of our work session. So when you get a chance, review it. No, I'm sorry, go right ahead.
What the ask is that we would take this over the next, between now and our next meeting, review it. Each of the goals that we discussed is in here, and then it's broken down. We've got some areas where we've got questions as an ask to the board so that we can get started on working on this in our February work session. If you guys can take a look at each goal, each page is a goal, and take a look at the questions in here, and, you know, from your heart, honestly answer where where you think we are with some of the information we've documented here. A lot of this is pulled from the Key Works of School Board by, the publication by NSBA, and also Becoming a Better School Board Member, which is also an NSBA document. So if we could each go through this, look at the goals, the questions that are aligned with these goals, and answer them so that we can come back in February. And in our first work session, we will begin working on our first 2 goals. And if, based on how far we get, we will finish in our March work session with wrapping up the goals. And in that, the goal is, I use the word goal again, but the objective is to be able to take a look, determine where we have gaps, fill those gaps in, and identify how we're going to meet each of these goals, activities that we can put together, work together to develop as a board to make sure that we can be successful in meeting the goals that we've set for ourselves, and then set timelines. And then we can determine what we may need to do as a retreat. I know in 2016, we had a large board retreat with Mr. Jolly and your predecessor and their teams, and then we did a morning session with them, we did an afternoon session with the board, and perhaps we can wrap up and finalize any additional work that we need to with the goals. But we will be using the March and the February work sessions to work on that, and then after we define that, we all have done a great job going to the conferences, bringing our classes back. I know you talked about it, Michelle. This is where we'll sit and determine how we can use some of that education that we've done in the past and how we can apply it to the goals that we set for ourselves and how we'll meet them. Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
No one finished business, new business.
No, unfinished business, that's my, facilities, however you wanna put it in there. My question is though, we had a facilities form brought to us several months ago. We never discussed it anymore after that. We never voted on it or anything, but they're using the form. You can't use a form if it's not been voted on. And the reason that I say that is because I got a couple calls because they were asking for their certificate of insurance, and I didn't know anything about it. So that's when I emailed you about having a discussion about it. I just need to understand where are we at with that, and I would hope that we're not putting forms out here for people who want to use the buildings to use when we haven't voted on it. You guys remember that? When the business
Right.
came here, we talked about it, and we kind of agreed that we shouldn't, as a board, be voting on everybody that come across that want to use them. So just kind of want to see where that's at, and
I think it was some changes to that form.
Well, he gave us a rough draft here in October, I believe it was, and that was a rough draft. I know they're still working on it. They haven't
but they're
got the
using it.
final project. I'm not sure.
The same.
Can I have Mr. Boyer comment on that?
Can you address that, Mr. Boyd?
The current form that is in place is still in place, and that was board approved last year, or the year before. I don't remember the exact date, but I did look it up. There was a board approval that was prior to my time, where, and this is fairly recently, within the last year and a half, the board approved a fee schedule and modifications to that, as well as the form. So that's the form we're continuing to use while we implement the automated system. We're still working on that. In fact, I have another conference call tomorrow, or work session with the company to continue that process. It's getting a lot of information, room numbers, sizes of rooms, information that somebody that would be renting the facilities or using the facilities may need to know in order to accurately select the areas that they want. So it's a little bit of a process to go through to get it set up. I'm hoping to have it going live and have something up very soon. But certainly before we change anything, a fee schedule, a form, or any of those things, we'll be coming back to the board for all of you to approve that, and you'll have an opportunity to see it and kind of go through it and review and see how it works and what the end user is going to see, and then how that workflow goes once they click submit, how it travels through the system for approvals, and to make sure that the resources that whoever it is using our facilities needs. In the meantime, the old system is still in place. The fee schedule, I think, is pretty solid. It's just a matter of clarifying and enforcing it. And so I think we're in pretty good shape with it, other than just getting it up and running. And that's a little bit of a chore, but we're working through the issues.
So is someone from your office not asking people for copies of insurance, or are asking them? Because
No.
I was told that you guys are asking people for copies of insurance before they can use the building, and that's something that we did not vote on.
I don't, okay.
So this is all for facilities, that's, okay.
But if we look at the the current board policy that's on the book, it does require that they have insurance.
It's on the back of the form, the old form.
There are provisions in that policy that at the superintendent's discretion, he can waive that need depending on the group. I mean, the Friday or the Wednesday night men's basketball league that plays at, Westwood, for example, may not need to have the same level of insurance that somebody else who's coming in to do gymnastics or something in the gym. I'm just using examples. And there's latitude in the policy that gives the superintendent or his designee the ability to make those kinds of decisions. But there is a requirement that they have insurance, and we do ask them for a certificate of insurance. And not only do we ask for it, but when we get it, I've implemented the practice of following up and verifying those, just because, not in this district, but in previous lives, I've seen where people would use an old certificate and change a date, or they do things like that, and we want to make sure that we're covered. It's just a matter of making sure not only that we're covered, but they're covered in case something happens. We all know how Sue happy everybody is, and we don't want to end up on the front of that, so.
So, yeah,
Go right ahead.
ask for clarification. So what I'm hearing, though, is we should have been asking for a certificate of insurance?
Yes,
Is
it's
that-
a requirement. It's on the
We
form. It says it on the
haven't-
form that they need to
Number
have
16 on the
insurance. It's right on the form. It's also in our policy, that you have to have,
It's on that old form.
yeah, you have to have liability insurance, and you have to name us as an additional insured. And those groups are small groups that aren't able to do that, or whatever it is they're doing doesn't rise to, we have the flexibility to say, okay, we're gonna let that slide because you're using a classroom to cut out, Valentine's or something like that, we're not too worried about somebody slipping and falling or hurting themselves, but we don't do that very often.
Just a clarity, you ask everybody about insurance.
We ask everybody about insurance, absolutely.
He just said the men's basketball, they don't.
That's not what he said. That's not what I heard him say.
No. We look at each group individually. We initially ask everybody for insurance. Then if there's an issue with that, then we'll sit down and talk to them about what it is they're doing and how they're doing it, and then we make a judgment call on how significant it is for them to have insurance for what it is they're doing. And maybe the basketball thing is a bad example, because that's one of the ones that I really like to have and make sure that we have insurance for, because that's, I don't care who it is, it's prone to accidents and those kinds of things. But we do look at each one. Once we ask for it, we tell them they need to get this. They go out and try and get it. They come back and say, well, geez, that's cost prohibitive. We're not going to be able to do our group. Then we look at the realities of what they're doing. We try to use a little bit of common sense with some of that, okay? We want to be inviting to the public. We want our community to use our facilities. And that's one of the things we look at too, is the group a member of our community, or are they coming from another community and coming here because the other community won't let them use their facilities, or it's too expensive for them. So we take all those things into consideration. But everybody is faced with the same criteria when they first walk in the door with the form, and we ask those same questions of everyone, and then as we hit hurdles, we try to resolve those problems.
All right, and I'll just, one final thing for those, you can take a look at policy 7510. It says use of district premises. And if you go about 3/4 down the way, it does say that the superintendent shall develop administrative guidelines, blah, blah, blah. Each user may be required to present evidence or purchase organizational insurance. So it is in policy, 7510.
Any other questions for Mr. Boyer? Thank you,
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Boyer.
you.
Appreciate it. Next on our board agenda is new business. It's 9.1, approval of school board members to travel to NSBA National Conference in San Antonio, Texas, April 6th through the 8th.
That is the 9th.
It is tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The 7th through the 9th.
Well, we would probably, right, but we probably would be traveling a day ahead, maybe, 6, I don't know. Well, the actual
They have
conference.
classes.
early
Actually,
bird,
they have
yeah,
the
early
pre-
workshop.
Yeah.
They have the
Early.
pre-conference workshops during the day on the 6th.
That's on a Friday.
Friday.
Right.
yeah.
It's on a Friday, the 6th. Any discussion about this? Is all board members going to the NSBA General Conference? You're not? Michelle?
I plan to.
Yes.
Tracy?
Yes. So,
Well, I just want to put it out there because Tuesday,
Oh, I haven't something already.
no, I got you.
Make sure that it's not on
Sure.
the same date. I don't wanna say I'm going and
I think Alicia has
Well,
it.
the only reason I ask because Wednesday, the 10th, is the early bird special.
Yeah.
If we put it in as a board, we save like $100 per member, I believe.
Mr. Chair, may I have the floor?
Go right ahead.
So I believe that Alicia registered all of us
This,
under the impression that we would go in effort to meet the early bird. But I don't remember the date. She can cancel without any repercussions if you choose not to go. So you do need to let her know,
Okay.
like ASAP, so that we don't have to absorb that cost. Because the goal was to make sure that none of us were in hotels in Booney La La Land based on where the convention center is, because the hotels were booking up. I know I said Booney is late, way far away,
Mhm.
because the hotels were booking up. So she was trying to, I think she was trying to get us in close to the convention center.
just let her,
the date is actually April 7th,
We travel that Friday typically.
which
and
is the 7th or the
Yes,
6th?
ma'am. This,
And we were returning when?
it's a Monday.
It's over on the 9th at like 2 o'clock.
yeah, it's over Monday afternoon, so I don't know if you leave.
The date is right. We travel in on the 6th, because they do have pre-conference
It's a Saturday.
workshops. The 6th is a Friday, the 7th is a Saturday, the 8th is
Eighth and the
a
ninth.
Sunday, and the 9th is a Monday.
So the only date that's missing is the 9th.
Yeah, so it's typically a half-a-day session on the morning of on Monday morning, and then we fly out after that morning session.
If you could just let Alicia know if you guys are good, thank you.
I don't-
And she may have already booked it, I'm not aware of it, but.
Dr. Rock said she's pretty sure.
She did book them? Okay, all right. Any announcements, Dr. Rick?
So
No?
are you asking us to approve this? We've got to make the motion to approve it, correct?
Is everybody going? Well, I guess we could.
I think we're gonna vote on everybody going, but if Bob
That's fine.
backs out, then
I would need a motion for 9.1 approval of school board members to travel to NSBA National Conference in San Antonio, Texas, April 6th through the 9th. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board approve that all school board members travel to San Antonio for the NSBA National Conference. The dates are April 6th or April 9th, and with the caveat that Barbara is still, Member Muman is still determined if she's going to attend the conference.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Dr. Rucker, please call the roll.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Elba,
yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Dr. Rucker, do we have any announcements?
No, sir.
Next on our board agenda is executive session. For all in attendance, we will, or this board will go into executive session. You're free to leave if you need to. At this time, I would need a motion for,
Oh, excuse me, before we go in, I gave you guys this thing about the voting, because I think we need to start doing it the right protocol way. So we can start it for next meeting, but this is how we're supposed to vote and everything, so you guys can read it at your leisure, and we can go from there. I just wanted to put that out there since I gave it to y'all. Go ahead.
I need a motion for executive session 11.1, enter executive session. Do I have a motion and the reason?
Mr. Chair, I move that this board move into executive session for the purpose of a conference with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Moved by Vice President Mitchell, second by Board Member Gator. Dr. Rock, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Elba,
Yes.
Mrs. Gator,
Yes.
Mrs. Moomin,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Freeman.
Yes, we are in executive session.
Raymond.
Yes, ma'am? 9:19, Dr. Rock.